Welcome to Dating Deja Vu, the podcast where we talk about your patterns, your pitfalls, and your personal growth in modern dating. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, marriage and family therapist and dating and relationship expert. And today we're going to talk about the silent drift, the drift where we start withholding sex, affection, and trust in relationships. And because I'm a Bravo girly, we're going to use Paige DeSorbo and Craig Conover as an example with what we're seeing play out on Southern Charm and Summer House. So if your dating and love life looks a bit of the same, it might be deja vu, but it also might be you. So let's figure it out together. What's up, Deja crew? Welcome back to another amazing episode of Dating Deja Vu, where we untangle your relationships. And today we're going to look at the messy relationships that look good, the highlight reel on paper or maybe on social media, but are hollowing out inside. So we're talking about the kind of like breakup that doesn't start with yelling. It doesn't start with a lot of arguing. It just starts with a little bit of like silence and rigidity and just ick. The shift is subtle. So we stop initiating sex. We stop telling them about our day or our lives. We stop asking them how they are because honestly, you already know the fucking answers. You're not even trying to start a fight anymore. You're not trying to do anything anymore, right? You're not doing it at all. And that's not because you're mean or cold or dramatic. It's because somewhere inside your body checked, this is not safe for me anymore. I think about a relationship I was in and I just numbed. And what we'll talk about, I love Paige DeSorbo. I'm a giggler. I'm one of her girlies. And as someone older than her, I'm 10 years older than her. I felt so bad for her going through the process because a lot of us have been there where it's just like we're not getting our needs met. We're not getting our needs met. But all we're thinking about is, what if I hurt their feelings? I think she said, he's going to think I'm such a bitch. Who gives a fuck? But we'll talk about that. What is withholding? What does it really mean? Right. So withholding is, people assume that it's like a punishment. Like, oh, she's withholding sex from me because she's mad at me. It's not that. It's not that at all. Withholding sex, affection, or truth is truly a protective response. It's almost like a survival instinct that kicks in when your emotional needs aren't consistently being met, or worse, consistently being unmet, or they're being dismissed. So you're not necessarily like being this petty bitch. You're just like, I'm not getting my emotional needs met. So just a reminder, your emotional needs are safety, love, affection, autonomy, growth, variety. Okay. So those are important things in life. And I think they're things that we need as children to develop emotionally mature, but also we need to continue to have them in our dating relationships. So when we're begin to withhold from others, we're protecting parts of you that are tired of not receiving that. You may have been receiving it up to a point, but somewhere along the way, things happened and people get selfish, or people have tunnel vision, or people get stuck in the fantasies and the timelines. So that brings us to Paige and Craig. So Paige DeSorbo, Summer House, Craig Conover, Southern Charm. So from the outside, they had all the chemistry, the charm, the dreamy Bravo romance, right? But on Summer House recently, Paige opened up about what was going on beneath the surface, right? And it was literally textbook emotional withdrawal. She admitted to withholding or wanting to withhold her career milestones to Craig, right? She didn't feel safe sharing them. She said, when I would get certain milestones, no, I wouldn't tell him because I knew he would want to be happy. I knew he would want to be happy for me, but deep down he would not be. So her belief was, I have this growth in my life, and my partner should be excited about this growth. This identity of who I am and who I'm becoming is very real for me, but I don't want to share that with you because on the surface you're saying yay, 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 but I know deep down like you're thinking, well, what about me, what about me, right? So she didn't want to celebrate herself because she sensed it would cost her connection to him. And I mean, this obviously wasn't a one-time thing. We don't know how many times this happened. I believe they were in their relationship was 3 years. That's how long my relationship was too. And I'm telling you, for the last year, I was just like hanging on by a thread, but I was so concerned about him and how the breakup would affect him and where it would put him because I owned the house. I was the successful one. I was the breadwinner. I had the dog. Of course, these are red flags. I know now, but where was it going to end up? Even I think we're going to find out soon. Like she talks about him like texting girls like a year and a half before they broke up. And if that's true, then I want to hear. And again, it's a teaser, but did she rationalize that? Did she kind of cope with that? Why did she stay if she knew that happened? So all this is happening with this idea that maybe even he was texting other chicks. So until all this happened, and then eventually her body started leaving the relationship before she ever did. So important. Such an important piece here. Her body started leaving the relationship before she could say the words, I don't want to be with you anymore. And one of the most like gut wrenching lines for me is when Paige said, like, I feel guilty that I'm more happy. I've manifested everything I've wanted, but I'm the most anxious I've ever been. Right. And I'm paraphrasing here, but like she said something along the lines of like, I've been dreaming about this since I was a little girl. Right. And like he's making me feel bad for wanting to fulfill my dream and continually making it about him. And that's what happens, right? When your external life is perfect, right? But your inner life is completely dismissed. So what I mean by that is, they're showing up on the red carpet and they look seemingly great. They have the pictures on Instagram, but inside, I mean, she was probably feeling this way for a long time. And again, as I had mentioned before, her body started leaving the relationship before she could ever say the words. Your nervous system knows, right? And now, obviously, we've got to do some work on ourselves and see if it's us self sabotaging or is it truly just the reality. Wow. I, and here's the key about their relationship is that she's at this new season of her life. Sure, they were great. They were together. She said he's helped her become the person or has been an influence in her success. I don't like when people say, you help me become who I am. Like, there's people who can influence. We don't do, right? People can't make us be. But she has said that. But now that she is successful, she is seeing a different side of him. And the needs that what she needs right now is support, right? She talks about that anxiety, that his concern on top of going on tour, on top of shooting, on top of, hosting, was it the red carpet event for Vanity Fair? All of that is already stressful, right? But he couldn't be that support for her. So it's not that he was a bad person, but now we have new variables. And new variables can show people's true colors. So that's what I mean by like the external life is perfect, but internal is different. So what are some signs that you're drifting away? So you're not in a breakup, but something feels broken inside. So you fantasize about being alone more than being with them. Listen, I've told you the story. I'm going to say it again. I can't tell you enough because remember, I'd get off the freeway. I'd get on my exit. I had to take the frontage road across the freeway. So it went north, west, then south because I lived in a community that was off this frontage road. And you could get through to it from the main road, but it was much longer than if you did this kind of U-turn thing. And every time I hit that corridor, I just think, God, this is my life. I don't want this life. I don't even want to live in this fucking neighborhood, this suburbia neighborhood. I'm supposed to be something else. I'm supposed to be living downtown. I'm supposed to be traveling. I'm supposed to be da 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 da. If you so dramatic. If you fantasize about being alone more than being with them. Next is you say I'm tired when really what you mean is I feel invisible. There was a time in my relationship where I was feeling very alone. And my husband and I were in therapy. And a part of my aloneness is because I create my own aloneness, which I know. So we were able to have that conversation. Um, and he was able to show up and support me, right? And I felt seen. But say that he was just like, whatever, I don't care. I'm here. Why would you feel alone? Like I'm here. I'm trying to spend, like in Craig's case, I'm trying to spend more time with you. Like, why would you feel invisible? It's like, no, what I want you to see me as is be proud of me. I want you to see my success. I want you to see that right now I need your support, right? But you don't. And I feel invisible. When sex can feel like a chore or like an act, like a performance. I was watching White Lotus and he goes, yeah, sometimes, what did he say? Sometimes I have to imagine that mom is something. I don't remember the exact words. So I was like, ugh. Sex is a connection. You should want to have sex. It shouldn't feel like a performance or like a chore. Yuck. Sex is something that helps us connect, obviously physically, spiritually, emotionally. And we should want to turn over and want to connect with our partner in that way. It doesn't mean it's going to happen all the time, but it's definitely something that if it's starting to feel like, oh, I've got to do this, you're drifting away. You start leaving things out, not necessarily to lie, but because you know they won't get the thing. I'm trying to think how I did this in that particular relationship. I mean, honestly, I didn't want him coming like, oh, I know. I would just say, oh, I'm just going to meet my friends. Oh, they just called me. So I'm just going to get off the freeway now. When really I knew like they wanted to hang out all day. I just didn't want him to come. So I remember doing that where we lived. Um, there was a bar that we'd like to go to and just they had really good food and we'd get drinks. So we'd get like every Thursday they had broccoli cheese soup and it was so good. And we get drinks and not every Thursday, but Thursdays were our day to go if we went. And I would just be like, oh, they just called. I'm just going to pop off the freeway and go meet them when I knew I was going all day. You stop fighting. You stop fighting, not because you're healed, not because everything is okay. No, 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 no. It's because you've given up. You're just like, fuck it. I think of my mentor who's since passed. She told me when she went through her divorce. Now, her divorce, from what I understand, I didn't know her during this time, but she and I talked about it. She goes, I lived in the area in Phoenix called Arcadia. I had the BMW. I had the beautiful home. My kids are in private school. Like I had the life, but I was so fucking done. I left with nothing. I was so fucking done. I was like, just take it all. I don't care. I'm so done with you. And she built herself up from there. But I always remember that statement like, when you're done, you're done. And if any of these feel familiar, it is not too late to come back, but it's time to also tell the truth, right? For Paige, she tried, right? She tried. But as he's mentioned, I was obsessed with the fantasy of where we could be. He's the one who if he could have had that reality check in the relationship and do some work, then they probably could have come back from it. If he's like, look, you're right. I'm making this about me. I am so sorry. I want to, I will show up. I will do the work while you are doing work, while you are working, because I have the flexibility. I want to be with you. I will do it in a way that works for you, and we can make this work. If that reality check would have happened then, I think they would still be together, but it didn't, right? So if you're in the withholding phase, I want you to ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I speak up? If I say what's wrong? If she says, when I tell you that I'm being like I have this success, I feel or I perceive your your feedback as you're making this about you. You don't care about my success, and you're more concerned about what our relationship is going to look like than just being proud of me. Like, what would, was she did this, of course, but I think she could have been a bit more direct. And the reason I say that is I hear her confessionals, and you can tell that the confessionals where she has the like little nipple titty twister hand is different from the confessionals when they first started filming. And I believe the ones with the white little like titty twister white tank are after they broke up. And you could see that directness and that assertiveness. And before, it's kind of a little like beating around the bush, and she's a very direct woman. But I get it. We protect, but then that's the next question. What am I protecting myself from? Right? What am I'm protecting myself from hurting someone and potentially hurting their feelings? Okay, but what about my feelings? Why am I not protecting those? I hear that all the time. But what if they uh, so they get to do that, but you get to be the one upset? No. Protect your fucking peace. And then what version of me has this relationship forced me to hide? Right? The successful version of me, the travel, social version that wants to be more. I mean, the guy I was with couldn't even afford a engagement ring because, and he'd tell my friends, well, I'll propose to her once I can afford an engagement ring. What? You're a grown ass man. You should be able to afford an engagement ring. So ask those questions and decide, is there room here for me to be seen, to be safe, and to be real? And coaching, relationship therapy is a really good place to understand this. If you have a good coach or therapist, you're going to do work on yourself and then as a couple, right? And that's a good place to do that because you can't build intimacy right while suppressing your truth. So we need to figure out these questions, right? That would be an individual session, and then how to express those questions in a couple session, and then have them come in, understand their thoughts and beliefs, and then have that conversation together. So it's possible. But if you're answering these questions, you're like, you know what? I've done that. I've said my piece. I've asked for my needs to be met. They continually to be minimized or invalidated. I am in the drift. I'm in the drift, and I am without a paddle. I am gone. Then leave. You have a right to leave. If you can't be affectionate, if you are withholding your truth, you're withholding sex, or you just despise the thought of it, it's okay. It's okay to leave. And just as our girl Paige showed us, it's okay to leave. And it's okay if you didn't do it soon enough, because we all kind of get caught up in how it's going to affect the other person and ourselves too. But oftentimes, as the person breaking up with the other person, it's hard. It's hard to be the heartbreaker, but it's not, you're not the heartbreaker, you're saving your own heart. So just remember that. So if you've been pulling away emotionally, sexually, or energetically, listen to your body. It's speaking for the part of you that has been shut down for a long time. It is speaking for you. If you have a friend who you're like, girl, this is you, please share this podcast. The more that we share it, the more people hear it, the more likely your next date will be a listener. So with that said, if you haven't done it already, please subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube to my YouTube channel, or follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. We love reviews. Again, that helps us get out there. 5 stars, of course. So Apple Podcasts, we'd love a 5-star rating and review, as well as a 5-star review on Spotify. You can check out the show notes for wherever else we're at in the world and how you can connect with me individually. And I'll leave you again with this. It might be deja vu, but it also might be you. See you next time.